Hi, Betty. Thanks for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
Yes, my name is Betty Ramirez Lara. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. I was born in 1958. So I guess that you could say following astronauts and all that has been part of my lifetime. And, you know, going to be 65 years old. And I've always asked, how come we haven't been back to the moon? You know, so I
I
hope.
know I've been asked that a lot too, and I was at the Space Center in Houston this past weekend, and I noticed that they had a board up, and it said, "Why haven't we been back to the moon in the past 50 years?" And it had an interesting answer there. It said it was from the Artemis team, and it said that we've been learning how humans can adapt to space and improving kind of like our operations in low earth orbit, and now we're ready to go further again, or something like that. I was
Okay.
wondering if that makes sense.
I don't know, but being in business and knowing what things used to cost before, not what they cost now, it seems to me like it would have made way more sense that we should have been there by now, and it would have cost way less money. So, I mean, I've told you how old I am, so I can remember when riding in my dad's car, I'd always sit behind him, you know, and I remember when gas was 25 cents a gallon. So I can think that if we would have made it there 20 years ago, it would have been way less than it is now. So I've always questioned that. How come we haven't been back? And my first question is, did we really go the first time? So
Yeah,
uh,
I've talked to a few people that have doubts, but I guess kind of retracing a little bit. When Apollo 11 landed on the moon in 1969, you would have been about 10 or 11.
yeah,
Do you remember it?
I remember it because I was only 2 years apart from my oldest brother, and we had to watch whatever he wanted to watch on TV. So yeah, I can remember. You know,
And now you have your own TV and you can watch whatever you want to watch.
I have three TVs. Yeah, so yeah.
And can you describe kind of what you remember of that time and the impression it made on you?
Well, as I said, we were all glued to the TV. Everybody, anytime there was anything had to do with space, with travel, I grew up in a time where things were a lot more simpler, you know. Lost in Space was the show to watch. There wasn't no Star Wars, or I still can't understand Star Trek. I had to watch it because of my brother, but we were all glued to the TV. But I do question, did we really make it the first time? I remember the moon rocks coming back. I remember all of that stuff. So
Do you remember having any doubts when you were 10?
I I didn't when they showed us the moon rocks on TV. I didn't then, but I do now. Like, where are those moon rocks? What did they find? What did they discover? That some people, did some people get, like, you know, affected by them? That they have some special powers? I don't know. Did people turn green? What happened? So do you know where the moon rocks are?
Well, most of them are in a vault here in Houston, Texas, at the Johnson Space Center. So
Yeah.
there's actually a building that's dedicated to preserving the moon rocks. I haven't actually been in the building. I haven't seen it myself, but I do know there is such a building, and I have seen some of the people that work there, but I haven't gotten to talk to.
Do
I
they
have
glow in the
talked to one
dark?
person. Hmm?
Do they glow in the dark
They
because they
don't.
were
They
exposed to the moon rocks?
no, I don't think they have any magical powers. If that's
Okay.
what you want. But
Okay.
coming back to when you were 10, do you remember if you had the thought, someday I'll get to go to the moon too, or did that not cross your mind?
It didn't cross my mind, and it still doesn't cross my mind. When I see Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, where they're trying to get to go live in Mars. I said, why? We need to we need to worry and fix what's here. Why are you going somewhere else and ruin that planet? Leave them alone. So, we worry about things like the green steps. We need to be more environmentally conscientious and we need to be more respectful of our planet. So why are we going to another planet? So I know that I watched Michael Strahan a couple of months ago, remember, up in West Texas,
Hmm.
that was Jeff Bezos that did that one. And they went up in space and then they came back and I really didn't understand what that was about. Was it just a bunch of men with a bunch of money that they're trying to prove, I'm gonna get there first, look at what I can do. And I don't understand. I just don't. I think that money could be used for other practical purposes. So
Well, that's a good point. If you could spend, like which practical purposes are closest to your heart?
um I think hunger and peace, those are pretty important for me. That's why I love Rotary because, we feed people all over the world. You see where it says Rotary responds, our 6 areas of focus, this green steps, the environment, that's just been added. But, working with the Rotary Foundation, it's about literacy, education. One of them is disease prevention. Um, you know, um, this program we just got introduced to about the veterans of foreign wars. I've been involved with having some of these soldiers come back and they can't find a job. So we got to re-educate them, retrain them, get them into some skills community college where they can make a living. You know, um, things like that. So we just got so much work to do here. Literacy is probably a big, big factor because I feel that when a child learns to read, he's not going to be afraid anymore. He is going to be able to defend himself. And, Cesar Chavez has a saying, you know, once you teach somebody how to read, they won't be afraid anymore. They will be able to defend themselves. So, um, it's very discouraging when you go to a McDonald's and order something, and these kids don't know how to give you change from a $20 bill. Um, they don't give you any eye contact. Their communication skills are terrible. That goes for at the bank, that goes for our younger generation. They're just in a whole different world. They think all the answers are in their smartphone. And I got in high school, I got trained on how to have good communication skills and how to go for interviewing for a job, you know, because this is what I was going to live from. So I just get really discouraged with some of these kids that they don't have it. So there's so much work to do here. Why are we going to the moon?
Well, some people say that going to the moon might inspire some of these kids to study harder. I was wondering what you thought about that.
Maybe, but I think it would be a very close knit small percentage. You know,
Hmm.
I think you've got some excellent kids out there that are very book uh, worthy, but they don't know how to communicate with people. You know, making people feel important. You know, I think that's your number one rule. Um, Repeating their name, the person in front of you 3 or 4 times, maybe 5 times, because people like to hear their name. You know, and so that was just a life lesson altogether. I sold cars for a living 30 years, and it was in 100-degree weather with pantyhose and high heels. I mean, that was just a matter of survival, being a single parent with 2 kids, having to feed them. So I taught my kids how to get educated. They're both in education. One's a vice principal and the other one's a principal at high school. And it's a tough job right now. Uh, they both talk about leaving that profession. I said, but they need you. Those kids need you. But um, the best teacher I had in high school was my life skills coach. He was the best, you know.
You had a life skills coach in high school?
Yeah, he was our it was called industrial co-ops training, in industrial cooperative training. Yes. And he taught us a lot of life skills. I mean, that was his job. So that was 46 years ago. Back in 76 is when I graduated from high school. So,
I have often thought that there should be a life skills course, and I
of
have not
course.
heard of anything like that.
Yeah,
Where did you go to high school?
Weslaco High School. It's a little bitty town in the Rio Grande Valley. So,
Hmm.
and he was the best teacher. He really was, because he taught you how to, I say, go in front of your employer, future employer, and sell yourself, you know. And there wasn't very many of us females, there was 3 or 4 of us. For the rest of the class, there were guys. So, I've always been around in a man's world. I really have. So,
Hmm.
but this is more than 5 minutes, right, Nathan?
I'm sorry, Betty. I just, once we open up some cans,
Ah,
there's like
so much out there.
so much out there. Okay,
But
so I'll wrap it up real quick then. Uh, so I take it that you're not so excited about us going back to the moon, and that you think that those resources could be used for something better.
well, uh, if I get voted out, if if my vote doesn't count, it's okay. I've learned. We gotta go by the four-way test of Rotary. All the four-way test. If you live your life that way, you you're out of trouble. It gets you out of trouble. So I became a Rotarian 20 years ago, and it was a life-changing experience. It really was. So I was in crossroads between the job I had. It was right after September 11th. Nobody would walk into the dealership. Nobody. It
Hmm.
was it was dead, you know. And so we couldn't put the numbers out that we had the month before. And we just couldn't ever recover fast enough. So certain things happen and you have to question your integrity. And, I was invited to a Rotary meeting by one of my friends from school, and I learned about that four-way test. And I said, oh my gosh, I have to live this way. And then there was a project that they were doing in Weslaco that was in Mexico. And I happened to know the exact town where they were doing it. It was a clinic. They had found a doctor and they had found a building. So now the clinic needed to be stocked up with supplies. And that Weslaco Rotary just started saying, here's $10, here's 25. I can get you bandages. I can do this. And I just started seeing people around me and I said, this is the kind of people I want to be associated with. And so it changed my life. And I've been, a Rotarian for over 20 years. Well, because of September 11th, it's already been 20 years. So,
I know. It's in some ways it seems like a long time ago. In some ways it seems just like yesterday.
yesterday. And you ask people, where were you? Like you just asked me, where were you when, Apollo 11 happened? So I was in front of a TV. That's what I can recall. So,
I remember driving to work and they talked about a plane running into a building in New York. And I thought it was like some type of retro about this, single engine plane running into the Empire States Building that happened earlier, and it really didn't all click until I started seeing the TV after getting to work.
oh, we were in a manager's meeting at the dealership and came down the stairs, and I actually saw the second plane hit the building because
Hmm.
it was live on TV. And we had a bunch of customers from the service department just staring like we couldn't believe it was happening. So the things we go through, right? And then COVID's happened 2 years ago, and we go, can things get any worse? When you've lost loved ones and
Yeah,
it's have you seen the movie Outbreak with
I have.
Dustin Hoffman?
Uh-huh.
That was it. I remember when our kids said, what are y'all doing driving around? You're supposed to be at home. And I said, what do we do now? We live in a bubble. I actually made fun of it, but it was true. It was true. And now, Joan just got COVID. She's getting
Oh,
over it.
really?
And
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
I got
So,
it at the beginning of June. No, sorry, beginning of July. So it was a pretty bad couple of days, but got better. So I feel good about that.
and you're vaccinated, right?
Yeah, vaccinated and boosted.
Boosted, yeah. I got it over a month ago, and for about 4 or 5 days, I was just terrible. It was bad. I
It
went
was,
went to the clinic, took a test, and it came back negative. But my doctor said, you probably had it. There's some false negatives that are out there. And if you do it at home, it's not going to come out.
hmm.
So,
Well, I have one last question for you. When you
sure.
look at the future of humanity, what does it look like to you? Like 100 years, 200 years from now?
Well, I hope we won't have to rely on oil. As kids, Nathan, I thought that by now we would have had those little hovercrafts like the Jetsons, you
Hmm.
know? I thought by now. And, we're still dealing with a lot of the same things over and over. And I think there's only like certain percentage of people that actually rule the world. It's true that they they dictate, the price of gas, the price of eggs, you know, the food supply, all that. I think it's the higher people, some way, somehow. Uh, and we're consumers. We're gonna have to pay what they asked us to pay, and or else stay home, I guess. But I come from very humble beginnings. My parents were from Mexico. Uh, I got to see where you had to eat eggs from the chicken that just laid them, you know, that kind of stuff. Real simple stuff. Um, no running water, no electricity. And we used to go visit at Christmas time or in the summer. And life was so simple and life was so happy. We were so happy. We were kids. We didn't know better. So, my parents made sure we got educated. That was their number one thing. Get an education. So you don't have to work, in the labor fields. You don't have to work as hard as we have worked. But, owning your own business, you're work 24/7, you work just as hard. But maybe you're making money when other people are sleeping. I'm in the energy business, electricity. So we're making money while we're asleep. So that's good.
And I've been to Mexico City a few times, and one thing that I'm really thrilled to see is the number of bookstores. Just kind of tying some of the things that you said together about the importance of learning to read, and then also kind of like the emphasis on education. I mean, I see that as being a sign of good things to come.
Yeah. And you know that people that are here from other countries, they they strive to be better, kids that go to school in Mexico, by the third grade, kids from high school is there at the same math level, you know. So you say, I think I think us here in the US are getting lazy. That's what I think, you know.
Yeah, whenever you were talking about what you had to do to survive and put food on the table for your children, the thought occurred to me was you did what it took. And I think people do what it takes. And because it takes so little now, they don't do very much.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean you're looking at a slacker kind of generation, Um, I don't know. I don't have all the answers. And Adam and I talk about this thing. It's not our fight. We've had our fight. We raised our kids. Our fight is different. It's a different fight. So we just want to live our next 10 to 15 years that we have left, peacefully and, comfortably. That's all.
That makes sense. Though
Yeah.
you might have a lot more than that. It might be 50 or 100 or 200 years. So,
Oh my gosh. Ashley just talked right now about how to teach senior citizens on how to wipe their butts. Did you hear that?
yeah, I did.
I
About
was like,
occupational
yeah,
uh,
occupational therapy. And I said,
therapy.
oh, don't talk about things like that, please, even though it's reality, So I think I told my kids that we just moved to Corpus Christi 2 weeks ago. We were living in Austin. I took both my boys out to dinner and I said, all I ask is for you to get me a private nurse at the nursing home so she can wipe my butt. And they go, that's all you want? And I said, that's all I want.
That's actually kind of hard to find. So
That they'll pay, But anyway, you can wish, you can only wish. But
absolutely.
Nathan, I think I took more than 5 minutes of your time.
I took more than 5 minutes of yours, and it's been a pleasure to get to talk to you, Betty. And thank you so much for participating in my project.
Anything I can do to help you. If you need more interviews, we got younger kids. Maybe they have I know my oldest will talk your ear off.
I
He'll
need
he'll have
800
you some.
more. So the answer to that question is
Do
yes,
you
yes, and
really?
yes. Yeah.
Well, email me your whatever you need. You have my email address, don't you?
I don't, but I probably have it in my email. It's probably CC'd on one of the emails I have. I'll find it from there.
Yeah, yeah. Or you can find it on Club Runner.
Club Runner. Okay.
Yeah. But send it to me. We've got 4 boys that would be more than happy to answer. Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Betty. Have a good
Thank
night,
you.
and thank
You
you again.
too. God
Bye bye.
bless. Take care. Bye bye.